Let's queer up education. Virginia school districts are rejecting Governor Youngkin's new anti-trans policies. Another Virginia school appears to be rejecting Governor Glenn Youngkin's new policies, which updated the Virginia Department of Education's policies for transgender students. The Alexandria City Public Schools superintendent and school book chair released a joint statement saying they both were dismayed when the policies were introduced, and wrote that ACPS will uphold gender-affirming policies that go back to 1996. While some side with the governor, many are glad that their children aren't in Virginia school systems anymore. In the notice sent out to the community, Alexandria City Public Schools said, quote, "We want to reaffirm our commitment to all students, staff, and families, including our LGBTQIA+ community, and that ACPS will continue to both implement and develop gender-affirming policies for all ACPS students. School Board Policy JB, Nondiscrimination in education, protects students from discrimination due to gender expression, gender identity, sexual harassment, and transgender status," end quote. Under the new guidelines, students must use bathrooms and use private facilities that match their biological sex, not gender identity, unless it's required by federal law. There is an opt-out policy that allows parents to request that their children be given access to sex-separated facilities. Students also have to receive parental permission to be recognized by another name or gender. Now, what I get from this, I'm loving the pushback. Continue to push back. I love how they said model policies. Again, here we go with these model, these are allegedly these things, because how do we regulate someone's ability to live? Like, if you feel this way, this is who you are. Why are we attempting to regulate? Why are we walking into these children's bathrooms? There's nothing wrong with any schoolhouse saying, you know what, I have bathrooms that are just not gender non-conforming. They go in, close the door, do what you got to do, and come out. And I love how we're finally recognizing that parents should have the ability to support their children and say, you know what, this is what I want you to do for my child. Recognize my rights and do as I say, period and point blank. And stop having a government that come along and says, no matter what you feel as a parent, this is how it's going to be, because this is how we globally feel. Stop. Hard stop and full stop.
Mm-hmm. The party of small government strikes again.
That's one of the, absolutely.
And then it's something that's mandated by federal law. That's an important thing to know. I mean, if it's mandated by federal law, then the state education policy is null and void. I mean, that's an important thing to know. And, I really do hope, and this is me speaking and hoping that the Biden administration understands the urgency of it. And I know in many cases, they're doing what they could. But the Department of Education needs to step up. The Department of Justice needs to step up and go after these states. Florida don't send the vice president down anymore to do fancy rallies. Right. I want them to start going into the courts. I want them to start instructing the Department of Education to do stuff. I don't want to see Kamala Harris no more. I don't want to see Joe Biden on a thing anymore talking about how it's bad what they're doing. We know it's bad. It's time for them to step up and
adjudicate or make some changes. Yeah.
Well, I want it to be a situation where our siblings are not looked at as protected classes, but as equal class, period and point blank. They're humans. And so I think that what I'm hoping from these visits from the vice president is that there is a lawyer or there's a group of folks who are going to be the next Thurgood Marshalls. They're going to be the next leaders and say, you know what, we need to bring together and we need to go into the laws. We need to start pushing back. And because the moment that those things happen is the moment that change comes. So we now need to pull together, start going to the judicial system and says, hey, look at what you're doing. You're now creating a situation where I feel like we're going so far back in time where we're separating ourselves and we're making folks feel less than. And that's the problem. And we now need to kind of find a way to make that happen.
And use the power of the purse too. That's the other thing. Like sometimes they don't even have to go to the court. They could just say, listen, we're giving all of these education dollars, all of this highway money to these states, all of this free money we're giving to the states. It's Florida, a third of Florida's state budget is Joe Biden dollars. So Joe Biden needs to have a conversation and say, okay, where all of these things you're doing, you're not following federal law or you're not following our policy. We're going to hit you where it hurts. That infrastructure money, all of that money, that Joe Biden is going around, that Ron DeSantis is going around and saying, I gave to the teachers, I gave to the firefighters, which came from Biden. Right. Biden needs to start taking that away and saying, all of this free money we're giving you for these projects, we're going to take it away. That's the only way they're going to listen to Republicans if we hit their pocketbooks. I know that at the end of the day that does hurt us a little bit, but I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit if it means freedom and civil rights for somebody else.
It's we've said it before, we'll say it 1,000 times before the next election, but elections have consequences. Greg Youngkin, Virginia has essentially become a bluish-purple state rather than a purple-bluish state. It's but then the last election, in the fizzled-out wave election, he was able to eke out a victory. And I think the Republicans have a 1-seat majority in one house of their legislature. And they were able to somehow get this done. But kudos to the school district, which is outside of, which is in very Democrat territory. It's right across the river.
Right across the bridge.
From D.C. So it's a very blue dot in this purple state. School districts here in Florida have not done that. But the politicians in Virginia don't have the bully majority that Governor DeSantis has. Governor DeSantis will just pick up a state attorney and say, nope, you're fired. He will take elected school board members and say, nope. I'm going to replace you with my own. Cronies, yeah. So the Virginia governor and the students of Virginia are spared that wrath because he can't just bully his way the way Ron DeSantis did. Hopefully, of course, he can't run for re-election for governor in Virginia. So hopefully he will just fade away in a couple of years. But it's very, very important that we look to Virginia for what can happen in these purple states. Because remember, until like 3 years ago, or maybe until last November, Florida was considered a purple state. And it is now
a swing state.
It is now red.
Swingy.
Yeah, no, the Democrats won't put $1 into presidential ads in Florida next year after what happened last year.
Especially they are now.
I disagree with that. I'm agreeing with you on the dollar amount. And I think what now needs to happen is we now need to remind folks it's not DeSantis who's giving these people, the teachers the money. It is it's Joe Biden that's giving it. We need to now speak our truths. Reclaiming our time. Let's reclaim our dime. No, you did not do it. It was this party. It was this person. It was that. And I think that what we're now watching is DeSantis is now, for lack of a better word, I don't want to use the word hanging because that's just too derogatory, but he's ruining the image of the Republican. No matter who comes in that seat, no matter who runs for in next place of, all I know for me and folks like me are going to see him because he's all of the damage that comes along with him. And so I think now is the perfect opportunity for us to hold tight. So as Elijah says, guess what? We don't want to go back down this road. We've already had this many years of craziness. We've already had this many years of our siblings dying, of our children not being educated correctly. How do we fix this? Well, the best way to fix it is start over with a brand new party, start over with a brand new person who can now get us and feed us the right way.
And in Virginia, like you guys were saying, likely to have I believe a legislature that has a Democratic majority in one of the chambers, and they have awesome legislators in Virginia doing that. So I'm gonna call them Yankimonious. Trump might want to pick that up if he Yankimonious. Doesn't have the majority to bully around the school board members right now, and that's a good thing. It may not happen if people don't vote. It may not stay that way.
That part.
And he may be looking to run for Senate or maybe even president if the sanctimonious can't beat him.
So, one thought before we move on. I somewhat disagree with you.
Okay.
Elimination. That I don't think DeSantis is sullying the image of Republicans. I think he is allowing their true image to come through.
Yes, absolutely, truly.
He's empowering them to come through.
Well, he's making their message known that everyone. So you often talk to people and they say it's not everybody. It's just a few. But what we've learned is that a few is millions and millions of folks. He's now sharing. He's giving the outcry. He's allowing that message to be heard that folks wasn't paying attention to. And so I think now that folks are really seeing what that public stands for, that party stands for. And so that's what I mean by that. We now see the agenda. We now hear the agenda. Before it was whispers. Folks didn't think that it was true. Well, guess what, family? It's true.
Still looking for the good Republicans. If you're out there,
I don't know.
Still looking for you.
Well, check your DMs.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ+ evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ+ community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.